These days, LinkedIn feels like the new Instagram, where everything's glamorized for your career and it's not depicting a completely accurate picture of what it's like.
Hey everyone, welcome back to 20 Somethings. This is part 2 to our first postgrad video, and we'll be talking about our job hunt, how to figure out what you want, and what you're good at, from 2 different perspectives working in tech and media.
Graduating from college is a huge transition. The term adulting comes into play because it's the first time you're leaving your college bubble. I remember graduation ceremony being the last high of graduation, and everything afterwards was pretty tough. I also took off 6 months, which I'm really glad I did, but that also didn't help at the time because I came back, all my friends had moved back home, and I was still stuck in my college town, living in my tiny studio apartment, wanting so desperately to move on, but having no idea how to find a job and do that.
So for me, contrary to Amy, I actually moved back home, and I haven't lived at home for more than maybe 2 weeks since high school. Living back with my parents and my younger brother was definitely an adjustment, but more than that, I told my parents maybe a month before graduation that I wasn't going to pursue med school anymore. And I know they were freaking out and were so worried about me. And I was worried about me too. So when I was at home, I was just scrambling to find what my next steps were. And looking back, I wish I kind of just relaxed a bit more and took more time. But I felt a lot of pressure to decide what I wanted to pursue next.
In my experience, at least, graduating from a public school meant very minimal support after graduation, especially when job hunting. I had no idea how to find a job, and on top of that, I had no idea what I wanted to do and what my strengths were.
So as I mentioned, I was on the pre-med track in college for all 4 years, and I packed my resume with stuff that I knew would get me into med school. And come graduation, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So what do I do next? I had no idea. So the first thing that I looked at was BruinView.
I remember looking up BruinView, which was our school's online portal to find jobs as students.
That gave me a ton of exposure to know what is even available on the market and what sounds interesting to me, and also what am I qualified for.
There weren't a lot of full-time jobs listed that I could, get into, but it was a good way to sort of navigate how to find a job and how to search for jobs before I jumped into LinkedIn and other sites like Indeed. Although those sites are a great use of resource, they can also be pretty overwhelming. So my first step to job hunting was, what the hell do I even want to do? And figuring out how my strengths and interests overlap to find a job that fits me. When I graduated with my communications major, the most basic major on the planet, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I did know that all my friends had moved back home to NorCal, so I figured, why not move there and find my community again? So I started applying to jobs that fit me up in the Bay, and they all turned out to be product marketing roles because I didn't have an engineering or CS background. What I learned through this is when you read job descriptions, there will be phrases or qualifications that match your interest and background, and you can sort of copy paste these over to other job descriptions and find ones that are better suited to you. What I wish someone told me was that you don't need to find your life's calling with your first job, because life's calling implies a lot of time, and you have all your life to find jobs and to find one that really fits you. So, really push yourself out there and gain more experience to really understand what you want to do.
My resume was curated for med school, so it made a lot of sense to me when I wasn't hearing back from all of these big companies that I was applying to, because frankly, I was competing with people who were better candidates than I was. So that's when I realized, okay, I need to change my strategy. So for my first job, what did I want? I had no idea. but I honestly didn't care what the exact role was. I just wanted to make sure that I can get a ton of exposure to a lot of different functions so that I could figure out what I wanted. And I figured I could get that at an early stage startup. So what I would recommend is during your job search, try to put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter. Be honest with yourself. Are you a good candidate for this role? And like, frankly speaking, I knew I wasn't a good candidate for a lot of the roles I was applying to. So I had to be honest with myself and change my strategy and then see what stuck.
The next thing I had to tackle was how to apply to jobs. And a tip that really helped me was looking up roles that I was interested in, but attaching coordinator or specialist behind it, because that helped me find roles that fit my qualifications and my background. That being said, I know a ton of entry roles nowadays require 2 or 3 years of experience, which I fundamentally disagree with, because as a new grad, you can't have that experience when you're job hunting. So I encourage you to cast a wide net while applying, because there is an idea that if you're more qualified to the roles you apply for, the more you'll hear back and the more likely you will be to land a job. There's also the idea that you never know what your potential could be, so take calculated risks and apply to roles outside of your comfort level and experience. The more you apply, the more you'll understand what job descriptions fit you and which ones don't. When I graduated, I applied to Google's rotational product marketing manager program. I kept hearing back and getting interviews, and though I didn't make it past final rounds, this really grew my confidence and my grit when applying to other roles and interviewing. So yes, be smart while applying, but also don't shy away thinking that you're not good enough.
Because I was open to most roles, the deciding factor for me was looking at the company mission and the product that I would be working on. I also figured that my resume wasn't competitive enough. So what I needed to do was sell my why on why I wanted to work for certain companies and have that stand out. So I knew that early stage startups are really looking for mission-driven people, and I knew I did fit that criteria. So I really tried to sell that part for myself. So for example, my first job out of college, the product that I was working on was a 3D design software where you can scan and build prosthetic limbs for amputee patients. And immediately, this company stood out to me because my former interactions with a prosthetist when I was doing volunteering work in Haiti was the reason why I wanted to pursue medical school. So I really had that genuine connection with the product. So I really told that story and sold it to the best of my abilities, and they were willing to take a chance on me. So what I would really recommend is try to find your competitive edge. Be honest with yourself and see where you don't stand out. And for me, that was my resume. But where I could stand out is the story that I could tell on why I'm applying and why I wanted to work there.
In our first video, I talked about how I fell into media on accident and I didn't even know it existed. And while I was excited to start my first job out of college, I was also really disappointed in not getting past the rotational program, and I saw this as a failure because I was so focused on company name value. Now looking back, working on a smaller and nimble team really helped me grow my knowledge and my confidence, picking up more responsibilities, and this really helped me grow in my career. I started noticing what I liked about my job and what I didn't like about my job, and this experience, really hands-on, helped me land my role at Disney today. Understanding what was important to me in my next role and honing in these skills proved really valuable to me, and that's something that I wouldn't take back.
So how do you know what you're really good at? For me, going into my first job, I had absolutely no idea. But over time, I started to realize what environment I really thrive in. And I realized, much to my surprise by the way, that I really enjoy working in ambiguity and building things from scratch and having the freedom and the autonomy to do that. And I was able to do that because I was like employee number 8 at the company, and no one was really there to like look over my shoulder, and like I just had to do things and take initiative. And I realized that fit really well with my working style. And that was really important for me to know because it gave me good indicators on what environments I really thrive in and what gives me energy. So at my next job, I was like employee number 26, and I knew that I would find those same things in the environment at that company. So it's not all about the specific skills, but try to see the environment and what you really like and thrive in.
So how do you land your dream job? We've shared this before, and I'll say it again. It's okay if your first job isn't your dream job. There's a chance that you probably don't even know that your dream job exists right now. I didn't even know that the role at Disney existed until I interviewed and applied for it, right? I'm a strong proponent of giving your curiosities and ambitions 100% and a chance to manifest. And this really means having an open mind. Be open to the idea that your dream job can change as you change and grow too, because it'd be silly to assume that you can change, but your dreams can't.
Expecting your first job to be your dream job is so unrealistic. And even if I had the chance to have my dream job at my first job, I wouldn't want it, because I would be unsure whether that is even my dream or someone else's dream. For me, it's really important that my career is genuinely something that I want and fits my personal definitions of what success is, instead of what society deems as successful or the new hot thing or prestigious. So that is going to take a lot of time, and I am very much have such a long way to go. So I am just trying to enjoy the process and take it day by day.
In my current day job, I'm a media marketing sourcing specialist for Disney, and this implies that I basically middleman the relationships and the objectives and goals between our lines of businesses at Disney, such as parks and studios, and our publishers like Google, Facebook, etc. So I work on the advertising side of things, and it's very media heavy, and I was only able to land this role because of all my experience at my first job at Team One. So really, trust your process, follow your steps. You can only connect the dots when you're looking back.
So I'm a program manager at Notion, and this role entails a lot of different things, but I basically found myself in this role after I launched our Notion for Startups program. And I recently switched focus and am now helping developing our upcoming API. And similar to what Amy was saying, 2 years ago, I would have never imagined to be in this role. And I think I'm really here because, that first company, really took a chance on me, but I was also very open-minded on the type of work that I would be doing. And through a lot of trial and error, I am here. And I really hope that the same mentality will get me to where I want to go in the future as well.